I put the semen in a saran wrap every day, like 5 times a day, for like a month straight.
He would kind of like roll it up, almost like a cigarette, and he would attach it to the line that we had in the vent. Everybody says it to me. This is like some Lifetime movie network.
I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna go down in history.
I don't know what my fate is. You kind of don't know what yours. If we're gonna go out, might as well just go out with a bang, you know? If it works, it works. But it definitely did.
These two inmates who have never met each other before were able to conceive a baby through a prison cell air conditioning vent. Again, they've never met before or even seen each other. You're probably wondering, well, how? Let's just say that they had so much free time in there that they were able to come up with this crazy plan to transfer fluids through the AC vent so that they can conceive a baby. I know this sounds absolutely insane, and I'm going to tell you guys how they managed to successfully do this. But before I get into this wild story, I just wanted to say Happy New Year. This is my first video in 2025, so that's super exciting. And I just want you guys to know that I'm so grateful for those who are following me on YouTube and also on my other platforms. With that being said, make sure you subscribe and like this video, and now let's talk about it. So this story took place at the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center in Miami-Dade County, Florida. In 2022, 29-year-old Daisy Link was charged with second-degree murder after she shot her husband in the leg and he lost his life. While Daisy was incarcerated, she began doing what many other inmates do while spending long hours in their cells, and that's communicating with other inmates through the air conditioning vents. Basically, what inmates do is they stand on top of the toilets in their cells and knock on the air conditioning vents and try to communicate with other inmates. This facility had men and women on different floors, and a lot of times you would knock on these vents and communicate with people you never met before. One day, Daisy began communicating with a man named Joan Depaz. Joan was a 23-year-old inmate who was also charged for murder and was being held in this correctional center. It's been said that these inmates were not only able to speak to each other, but they were also able to send things to each other through these vents. And so Joan and Daisy began passing photos and notes to each other, and it wasn't long until they began their romantic relationship, all while never seeing each other in person. It was said that Joan and Daisy spoke for hours every single day through these vents. And apparently inmates are not allowed to do this. If they are caught, there is some sort of consequence, but a lot of them are very good at hiding it. After speaking for some time and creating this relationship, Joan told Daisy that he really wanted to have a baby, but he knew that he couldn't do that anytime soon because he was most likely going to be in prison for a long time.
I always really wanted to have a baby, and I'm not going to get to do that for a really long time.
He then told Daisy that if he could choose anyone to have a baby with, it would be her.
So if I had to choose somebody, it would be you. And she was like, yeah, we could do that.
And Daisy, who was so in love with this man, told him that, well, it could be done. Together, they both went about coming up with this crazy plan. And I don't know how they knew it would work, but it did.
I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna go down in history.
I don't know what my fate is. You kind of don't know what yours. If we're gonna go out, might as well just go out with a bang, you know? If it works, it works. But it definitely did.
Joan explained that since the air vents were L-shaped, anything that Daisy threw into the vent would automatically land in his vent. Now, this is where things get interesting. Joan began putting his fluids, if you know what I mean, in saran wrap and rolled it up kind of like a cigarette. And he did this every single day, 5 times a day for about a month. He would then send his fluids wrapped up, attached to a bed sheet that they both made together through the vent. Can you imagine how much time and energy someone would need to sit there and come up with this plan and make sure that they did it without getting caught? This story sounds so made up, but I promise you it's not. And this isn't even the craziest part, because when Daisy received Joan's fluids, she transferred it over into a yeast infection applicator, which I didn't even know what that was. I had to look it up, but it basically looks like a syringe. Daisy administered these fluids inside of her daily until she got pregnant. So they did this for about a month. So she got pregnant literally within a month. I've never heard of anyone doing this before, especially in prison. But I mean, you have to admit it's pretty impressive. There was so much thought and creativity put into this. So Daisy's pregnant now, and eventually she starts showing, and it was pretty alarming to everyone in the jail because from their understanding, she wasn't pregnant when she entered the facility about 2 years ago. So they're like, how did this happen? The jail began their own investigation, and they first believed that Daisy was essayed in the jail, but they couldn't find any evidence of that. Eventually, 9 months passed, and their baby girl was born on June 19th, 2024 in Jackson Memorial Hospital. And when a DNA test was done, it confirmed that Joan was the father. The jail was in complete shock, and everyone was looking at each other like, how did they manage to do this? The baby was then given to Joan's mother, who has full custody and will raise her until one of her parents are released, which apparently will not happen for a long time. Now, since this incident, the jail moved one of them into a different facility, but that hasn't stopped them from talking. Apparently, they're still together, and they regularly meet with their daughter on video call. A fertility doctor was then interviewed, and he said that getting pregnant and having a successful pregnancy in this way is very slim but not impossible.
We estimate that probably their chances were less than 5%, but that is not to say that the chances were zero. So this is absolutely a case that is exceedingly unusual. To my knowledge, I never heard or read anything like this.
Now, in my personal opinion, I feel like there's something not quite right with this whole situation and these two individuals, because now this child has to grow up without not one, but both of her parents. Let me remind you that Joan and Daisy are in prison for murder in Florida. Florida does not play with these kind of crimes, so they're probably going to be in there for the rest of their lives. It just comes off as very selfish, and seems like the only reason they did this was out of boredom and because they fell in love in that moment. I can bet you that if they were released before doing this and actually got to know each other, there's a high chance that they would have never had a child together. And I'm not gonna lie, the part that made me laugh, but not because it's funny, but because it's so absurd, is that Joan called Daisy the Virgin Mary because she was able to have a child without being touched.
So you guys have never physically touched each other?
Never. Like the Virgin Mary.
I truly hope that after this happened, the jail did something to prevent this from happening again, because this is just so sad for this child. Joan also told the media that ever since this news broke out in the jail, he's actually being treated as a celebrity. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of inmates attempted to do the same thing he did with Daisy. What do you guys think about this story? I was reading comments, and some people were actually saying that it's a cute love story. I don't know if they're being sarcastic, but I don't see how this is cute in any way. But anyways, that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you found this video informative, entertaining, or you just like listening to me yap, please like and subscribe. It literally takes 1 second, and it's a free way to support my channel. Also, I don't post every day here, but I do on my other social media channels. So if you want to keep up with me, make sure you follow me there. Stay safe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.